There is one habit, just one, that has the power to transform not only your days but your destiny. It's not a secret formula. It's not $1 million strategy. It's a choice, a simple, intentional decision to focus on what's present instead of what's missing. And this habit, my friends, is gratitude. Today, we dive into the story of a woman who turned her pain into power, who sat in a wheelchair but stood tall in courage, Muniba Mazari. Through her journey, we'll uncover how this one powerful habit can completely change your life, just as it changed hers. Let's begin. Gratitude is a simple word, yet it carries within it the power to completely transform your life, not in loud, dramatic ways, but in subtle, lasting, and profound ones. Practicing daily gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect or denying the pain in your life. It's about choosing to acknowledge the good that exists alongside the pain, the beauty that coexists with the struggle, and the strength that grows in the soil of adversity. Every day, life gives us countless opportunities to complain. The traffic, the missed calls, the broken relationships, the deadlines, the disappointments, they're all real. But alongside them are quiet blessings we often overlook. A warm cup of tea in the morning, the sound of rain against the window, a friend who checks in, the breath in your lungs. Gratitude doesn't make the hard things disappear, but it gives you the courage and perspective to face them differently. It changes your focus from what's lacking to what's already here. Many people wait for a perfect moment to feel thankful. After they've achieved their goals, healed from their heartbreaks, or reached some imagined milestone. But gratitude is not a reward for achieving happiness, it's the seed that grows it. The moment you start giving thanks, even when life feels incomplete, you begin to see just how rich and full it really is. This mindset shift is powerful. It lifts the fog of negativity and illuminates paths you couldn't see before. Problems may still exist, but they no longer define your day. Challenges remain, but they stop feeling like walls and start looking like stepping stones. In the quiet corners of our routines, when practiced consistently, gratitude becomes a habit that rewires our brains. Scientific research even supports this. Regular gratitude practices have been shown to improve mental health, boost mood, lower stress, and even improve sleep. But more than science, it's life itself that shows us the truth. The most resilient, joyful people are often not the ones who have had the easiest lives. They are the ones who have learned to find something to be thankful for despite the chaos. Imagine waking up each morning and your first thought isn't stress or dread, but thanks. Thanks for the chance to try again. Thanks for the people you love. Thanks for the lessons in the pain. That single thought can change the tone of your entire day. And if you begin and end your day with gratitude, you slowly train your mind to see possibility, even in the most unlikely places. You begin to find joy in simplicity. You stop waiting for happiness and start living it. Muniba Mazari's life is a testament to this truth. Paralyzed at a young age due to a car accident, she could have easily surrendered to hopelessness. But instead, she chose to be grateful for life, for voice, for purpose. That choice did not erase her pain, but it gave her power. She became a voice of inspiration, an artist, a speaker, a change maker. Gratitude turned her tragedy into testimony. It didn't fix everything, but it changed everything. You don't need a faltering moment to adopt this habit. You just need a quiet decision to begin. Start by writing down 3 things you're grateful for each morning. Say them out loud if you can. If your day was hard, search for one thing that made it worth going through. Even if it's small, especially if it's small, over time, your focus will shift. You'll stop waiting for the world to change and realize the change began in you. When you walk through life with a grateful heart, you carry a light no darkness can extinguish. You become more aware, more compassionate, more present. Relationships deepen. Opportunities reveal themselves. Inner peace replaces anxiety. This is not magic. It's practice, it's effort, and it's a choice you make every single day in a world that constantly tells you to chase more. more success, more money, more validation. Gratitude tells you to slow down and see what's already yours. It's not a passive state of mind. It's an active, courageous stance that says, even if I don't have everything I want, I'm thankful for everything I do have. The beauty of this habit is that it's available to everyone. It doesn't require wealth, education, or perfection, just intention, just honesty, just heart. Practicing daily gratitude won't solve all your problems, but it will give you the strength to face them, the wisdom to grow from them, and the grace to keep going. And in the end, that strength, wisdom, and grace, that quiet inner transformation, is how your life truly begins to change. There is something remarkably powerful about the way we see the world. Two people can go through the exact same experience and come out of it with completely different stories, different emotions, and entirely different futures. What separates them is not what happened. It's how they chose to see it. This ability to shift perspective is not just a mental exercise. It's the doorway to transformation. It changes the meaning of our experiences, the direction of our actions, and the quality of our lives. When adversity strikes, our first instinct is often to ask, "Why me?" That question, while natural, keeps us trapped in victimhood. It centers us in pain and confusion. But if we take a breath and reframe the moment, asking instead, "What can this teach me?" Or "How can I grow from this?" we shift from being powerless to being purposeful. That shift doesn't remove the pain, but it transforms it into fuel. It becomes a catalyst for change instead of a chain that binds us. Life is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about how we respond to them. A shift in perspective helps us move from reacting emotionally to responding consciously. It opens our eyes to hidden opportunities within our struggles. It reveals strengths we didn't know we had and teaches us lessons we couldn't have learned in comfort. With a changed perspective, even failure stops being the end and becomes a new beginning. Sometimes, the things we label as curses are actually disguised blessings. The end of a relationship that broke your heart may be the event that led you back to yourself. The job you lost may push you toward the path you were truly meant to take. Pain, loss, and disappointment are not meaningless. They only seem that way when we refuse to see beyond the moment. But the moment we look deeper, everything begins to shift. What once seemed unbearable becomes bearable. What once felt like a punishment becomes a push towards something better. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about understanding that meaning is something we assign. Events are neutral until we interpret them, and when we choose empowering interpretations, we claim our power back. Instead of being crushed by what happened, we become elevated by what we learn. We become storytellers of our own lives, writing narratives of strength, courage, and growth. In moments of despair, perspective shift gives us hope. In moments of conflict, it gives us compassion. In moments of fear, it gives us clarity. It's the quiet voice that says, "This moment doesn't define you. Your response does." It allows us to see that life isn't happening to us. It's happening for us. That simple mental adjustment creates a ripple effect across every area of our lives. There are countless examples of people who have turned unimaginable pain into purpose simply by changing how they saw their circumstances. Their situations didn't get easier. They didn't suddenly gain superpowers. But they changed their perspective, and that changed their reality. Instead of saying, "This is the end," they said, "This is where I begin again." That decision gave them strength. It gave them direction. It gave them peace. When you shift your perspective, you stop focusing on what you can't control and start acting on what you can. You begin to notice the lessons hidden within hardship, the beauty tucked inside the ordinary, and the strength that lies quietly beneath your fear. You realize that sometimes all you need is not a new life, but a new way of seeing the one you already have. This shift is not always easy. It takes self-awareness, patience, and effort, but it's possible for everyone. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need willingness, willingness to see things differently, willingness to question your assumptions, willingness to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's a greater purpose behind the pain. Perspective is not something you're born with, it's something you build. Every time you choose to see the silver lining, to seek meaning instead of misery, you strengthen that mental muscle. Over time, this becomes a habit. You stop being shaken by every storm. You become grounded not because life is easy, but because your mindset is strong. At its core, shifting perspective is about freedom. Freedom from old patterns. Freedom from the weight of the past. Freedom from the stories that no longer serve you. And when you claim that freedom, you don't just change how you see the world. You change how you show up in it. You walk with resilience. You lead with empathy. You live with purpose. And that is where true transformation begins. There are stories that don't just inspire us. They awaken something within us. Stories that challenge our excuses, soften our bitterness, and show us the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. This is one such story. A young woman with dreams like any other, with hopes for love, happiness, and a future filled with meaning. She was full of life, painting her dreams in colors only she could imagine. But life, in its unpredictable nature, changed everything in a single moment. A car crash, a moment of carelessness, a twist of fate, that's all it took to shatter her body and break her spine. She found herself in a hospital bed, unable to move, with doctors telling her she would never walk again, never be a mother, never live the life she had once imagined. In that moment, everything she knew collapsed. Her identity, her future, her plans, it all disappeared into uncertainty and despair. Most would have given up. Most would have let the bitterness grow, drowning in the weight of what was lost. But there was something inside her that refused to surrender. In the silence of that hospital room, surrounded by pain and hopelessness, a decision was made, not to let that moment define the rest of her life. Her body may have been broken, but her spirit was not. And that spirit, that unwavering decision to live a life of purpose, became her strength. The journey was not quick, and it was never easy. The pain didn't vanish. The limitations didn't disappear, but something else emerged: resilience. Through endless surgeries, sleepless nights, and emotional battles, she began to rebuild herself, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. She picked up a paintbrush again, not because it would fix her world, but because it reminded her she still had the power to create beauty, even in brokenness. Her voice became her power. She started speaking, not as a victim of tragedy, but as a messenger of truth. She began to share her story, not for sympathy, but to spark strength in others. She stood tall, even when seated in a wheelchair, and reminded the world that our limitations are often only as powerful as the beliefs we attach to them. Her words reached people who felt invisible, broken, or unheard. Her story echoed in the hearts of those who had forgotten their own worth. She became a symbol of courage, not because she had conquered all her fears, but because she chose to face them. She used her platform to speak on issues that mattered: equality, self-worth, empowerment, and purpose. Every time she smiled, every time she spoke, every time she painted, it was a declaration to the world that strength has nothing to do with physical ability and everything to do with choice. As the years passed, she transformed her pain into purpose. She became an artist, a motivational speaker, a national icon, and a voice for those who felt voiceless. Her presence lit stages, touched hearts, and moved millions, not because of what she had lost, but because of what she had chosen to become. The accident that was meant to end her life became the beginning of a new one rooted in meaning, compassion, and a fierce commitment to inspire change. She refused to be defined by the chair she sat in. Instead, she chose to define herself by the message she carried. And through her journey, she showed us that tragedy doesn't destroy us. It reveals us. It uncovers the layers we didn't know existed, layers of strength, purpose, and grace. She proved that no matter what life takes from you, it can never take your will to rise again unless you let it. Her life is not just an example of resilience, it is a reminder a reminder that life is fragile, unpredictable, and often unfair, but also beautiful, redeemable, and full of second chances. It reminds us that our darkest moments can lead to our brightest days if we dare to believe in ourselves again, that in every ending there is the seed of a new beginning. She stands today not just as a survivor of her past, but as a builder of hope for the future. And through her example, she continues to ask the world a quiet but powerful question. When everything falls apart, who will you choose to become? There was once a young woman full of life, dreams, and ambitions. Like many others her age, she had envisioned a future shaped by creativity, love, and purpose. With a heart passionate about art and a mind overflowing with ideas, she had plans that seemed just within reach. Life, however, does not always move according to plan. In a single life-altering moment, everything changed. A devastating car accident turned her vibrant world into one filled with silence, pain, and immobility. Her spine was crushed, her dreams shaken, and her independence taken away in an instant. As she lay in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines and the echoes of doctors' words declaring what she would never do again, she faced a crossroads. Paralysis, they said, a wheelchair for life, no possibility of motherhood, a long list of things she would never be able to experience. For most, such a reality would be the end of the road, a final curtain on a once bright stage. But instead of closing the chapter, she slowly began to rewrite the story, not all at once, not with ease, but with quiet determination and a refusal to let despair write the ending. Each day in that hospital became a test of will. The pain was relentless, both physical and emotional. She cried, she broke down, and she questioned everything. But through the cracks of that pain, a new strength began to form. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was gentle and persistent, whispering that there was still more to live for. The journey was never about sudden transformation. It was about rebuilding from the ground up, with nothing but inner courage to guide the way. What followed was a slow but powerful resurrection. She turned to the canvas again, letting colors speak where words failed. Painting became more than a hobby. It became therapy, expression, and purpose. Through her artwork, she found herself again. Her brushstrokes began telling stories of resilience, hope, and self-acceptance. Every piece created was not just art, but a declaration of survival. Eventually, her voice found its way back too, not just in conversation, but on public stages. Speaking about pain, purpose, and identity, she began to touch the hearts of those who had lost hope. Her story, filled with unimaginable hardship, resonated not because of the tragedy, but because of the triumph. She didn't ask for pity, she offered perspective. Her words carried weight not because of her suffering, but because of the strength that came from it. Despite the wheelchair, she stood taller than most. Through her challenges, she discovered the power of choice, the choice to focus not on what was lost, but on what was still possible. Instead of mourning the life she once imagined, she began to embrace the life she had been given. And through that acceptance, she found freedom, a freedom rooted not in physical mobility, but in mental and emotional liberation. As her message reached more people, her life evolved into something far greater than she had ever planned. She became a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of perseverance for those trapped by their circumstances. Her journey proved that you don't need to be unbroken to be whole. That strength is not measured by the ability to walk, but by the courage to move forward when every part of you wants to stop. She became a reminder that healing doesn't mean returning to who you were. It means discovering who you're meant to become. In losing one life, she found another, more meaningful, more impactful, and more beautiful in its honesty. With every speech, every painting, and every public appearance, she demonstrated that scars can be sources of strength, and that even in the darkest seasons, light can be found within. Life continued to test her. Challenges didn't disappear, but with each new obstacle, she met it not as a victim, but as a warrior of grace and resilience. She carried her pain not as a burden, but as a badge of survival. Her journey inspired millions not because she was spared from suffering, but because she chose to rise despite it. What started as a tragedy became a testimony. A life once marked by despair transformed into a beacon of hope. Through her story, others found the courage to rise, to heal, and to believe again. In every sense, she became living proof that when you choose to fight, to forgive, to feel, and to forge ahead, you don't just survive. You thrive. In the fast pace of modern life, it's easy to get consumed by what we lack, what hasn't gone our way, the goals we haven't reached, or the people who have disappointed us. The mind naturally gravitates toward problems, and emotions often follow suit, dragging us into frustration, anxiety, or sadness. But in the midst of this mental storm, there exists a quiet force that can shift our entire inner world: gratitude. It's not flashy, it doesn't scream for attention, but it has the remarkable ability to build a kind of strength that goes beyond the physical, a strength rooted deeply in the mind and the heart. Gratitude, at its core, is a conscious focus on what is good, meaningful, or worthy in our life. It's the act of choosing to see the beauty in the small things and recognizing the value in what we often take for granted. This simple shift in awareness has the power to transform not just how we feel in a moment, but how we experience life as a whole. When practiced daily, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes a foundation of resilience. Mental strength is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's about being able to acknowledge pain without letting it consume you. It's the ability to face setbacks and still believe that things can improve. Gratitude cultivates this by changing what we focus on. Instead of fixating on what's missing or what went wrong, it trains the mind to acknowledge what remains, what has gone right, and what still brings value to our lives. This doesn't make difficulties disappear, but it does make them feel more manageable. The mind is shaped by repetition. Thoughts we revisit often become beliefs, and beliefs influence behavior. By regularly practicing gratitude, we rewire our brain to see the world with more clarity and hope. Over time, negative thoughts lose their dominance, and positive interpretations begin to emerge more naturally. Even when life is hard, gratitude allows us to see the entire picture, not just the dark parts. This broader view is where mental strength is born. It gives us perspective. It gives us the emotional distance we need to respond thoughtfully instead of react impulsively. Emotional strength, much like mental toughness, isn't about avoidance or denial. It's about feeling deeply without being destroyed by those feelings. Gratitude supports emotional strength by anchoring us in what's real and positive, even during emotional storms. When you're grieving, gratitude doesn't erase the pain, but it can remind you of the love you once experienced. When you're feeling alone, gratitude can shine a light on the moments you were supported. When life feels overwhelming, gratitude narrows your focus down to something grounding, a memory, a person, or even a small joy. What makes gratitude so powerful is that it does not depend on circumstances. It is available to us regardless of what is happening externally. You can be thankful while going through a tough time. You can find something good even when surrounded by difficulty. This internal freedom creates emotional stability. It allows us to rise above momentary chaos and connect with a deeper sense of peace. People who practice gratitude regularly often report better relationships, improved sleep, reduced stress, and a greater sense of purpose. But these benefits don't come from magical thinking. They come from a shift in how we relate to our own lives. When we recognize and appreciate what we have, we stop taking things for granted. Relationships deepen because we notice and acknowledge the good in others. Life becomes more meaningful because we pay attention to the present instead of obsessing over what could have been. This strength also becomes a source of inspiration for others. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate peace, kindness, and authenticity. Gratitude helps us develop those qualities because it connects us to something larger than ourselves. It reminds us that life, even with all its imperfections, still holds value. That awareness fosters compassion, patience, and grace, both for ourselves and for those around us. When challenges arise, gratitude doesn't prevent pain, but it gives us a cushion to fall on. It reminds us that we've made it through hard times before and that there's still something worth holding on to. It helps us reframe failure as growth, loss as learning, and uncertainty as opportunity. In doing so, it builds an emotional and mental endurance that allows us to keep moving forward when it would be easier to stop. The path to lasting strength is not paved with constant victories, but with moments of grace in the face of hardship. Gratitude invites us to see those moments, to hold on to them, and to draw strength from them. Whether it's a kind word, a beautiful sunrise, or simply the chance to breathe and try again, each acknowledgement becomes a brick in the foundation of a stronger, more centered self. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending life is always beautiful. It's about choosing to honor both the light and the darkness. Gratitude makes us honest. It makes us humble, and above all, it makes us strong. Not because life becomes easier, but because we become better equipped to handle it. We stop living at the mercy of circumstances and begin living from a place of inner power. The most extraordinary thing about this process is its simplicity. Just a few moments each day spent reflecting on what you appreciate can shift your entire mindset. Over time, that mindset becomes your default way of seeing the world. It becomes your anchor in chaos, your shield in struggle, and your fuel in fatigue. And in that quiet practice, day after day, you'll find that mental and emotional strength is not something you're born with, it's something you build, one moment of gratitude at a time. Each day presents countless opportunities to shift focus, reframe challenges, and find meaning in the present moment. One of the most effective ways to do this is through a consistent daily practice that centers the mind, calms the heart, and nurtures the soul. The beauty of this approach lies not in grand gestures or extraordinary breakthroughs, but in the quiet, consistent repetition of simple acts that change how the world is seen and experienced. The day often begins in a rush, alarms, to-do lists, and mental noise all clamor for attention. But instead of letting the morning be ruled by chaos, the first moments can become a foundation for peace. Before checking messages or scrolling through headlines, taking just 1 minute to breathe deeply and reflect on something meaningful can redirect the entire course of the day. Whether it's the comfort of a warm bed, the chance to try again, or simply the miracle of waking up, recognizing even one positive element brings clarity to the mind and centers the emotions. Writing down thoughts can also serve as a powerful tool. Keeping a small notebook or journal nearby allows the mind to slow down and focus. A few sentences each morning or evening, naming 3 things that sparked joy or brought comfort, cultivates an inner dialogue of appreciation. These entries do not have to be profound. Often the smallest details hold the greatest power. A smile from a stranger, the scent of morning coffee, or the sound of rain tapping on the window can all become moments of significance when given attention. Routines are not only about repetition but intention. Integrating reflection into daily tasks transforms them from mundane to meaningful. For example, while brushing teeth, preparing meals, or taking a walk, pausing briefly to consider one thing going right shifts the brain's default setting from stress to presence. In these quiet moments, appreciation grows not from dramatic changes, but from simply noticing what already exists. Connection is another essential aspect. Taking time to express genuine appreciation to others enhances relationships and reinforces positive thinking. A short message to a friend, a sincere thank you to a colleague, or a kind word to a family member can ripple outward in unexpected ways. Gratitude expressed outwardly often returns inwardly, deepening emotional resilience and reinforcing a sense of belonging. Nature, in its quiet wisdom, offers constant lessons and reminders. Stepping outside and simply observing can anchor the mind in the present. Watching the way sunlight dances on leaves or noticing the rhythm of the wind awakens awareness. These observations act as gentle reminders that even amid uncertainty, there is order, beauty, and peace. Daily interaction with nature, even briefly, opens space for deeper reflection and inner stillness. Modern distractions can cloud clarity. Phones, noise, and constant input make it difficult to hear the inner voice. Choosing to create moments of silence throughout the day clears mental clutter. Whether it's 5 minutes of quiet breathing, listening to calming music, or sitting in stillness, these pockets of peace become sanctuaries for the mind. In silence, a deeper connection with the present emerges, revealing insights that go unnoticed in noise. Mindful speech also becomes part of this daily rhythm. Speaking consciously, choosing words rooted in kindness and presence, fosters awareness. Before complaining or criticizing, pausing to consider the impact of words strengthens emotional intelligence. Instead of saying what's wrong, shifting to what's going well reframes conversations and environments. The words spoken shape not only outer interactions, but also inner narratives. Daily reflection at the end of the day is just as powerful as beginning it with intention. In the quiet moments before sleep, replaying the day with curiosity rather than judgment uncovers hidden gifts. Even in difficult days, there is often something to be acknowledged. Strength shown in patience, progress in persistence, or lessons gained through struggle. Ending the day with a moment of appreciation allows for peace and rest, grounding the mind in completeness rather than lack. Incorporating this practice into life is not about perfection. Some days will be harder than others. There will be moments when it feels forced or when frustration overshadows reflection. That is part of the process. Consistency is not about always feeling grateful. It's about returning to the practice even when it's difficult. Over time, it becomes a habit, then a mindset, and eventually a way of life. The transformation begins with a choice to look again, to see differently, and to find beauty in the ordinary. When practiced daily, this approach doesn't just improve mood or outlook. It rewires thought patterns, strengthens emotional resilience, and builds a deep sense of contentment. The world outside may not change, but the way it is experienced becomes infinitely richer. There is nothing extravagant required to begin. No tools, no schedule, no expertise. Just presence, attention, and a willingness to notice. With practice, the mind grows quieter, the heart opens wider, and the spirit becomes lighter. What once felt like a routine becomes a ritual. What once seemed small becomes sacred. In time, life itself becomes the practice. Every moment a teacher, every experience an offering, and every day an invitation to begin again. With open eyes and a centered heart, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. And through this quiet, powerful daily practice, the deepest form of strength is found, not in control or perfection, but in the ability to remain grounded, grateful, and whole, no matter what comes. When a single drop of water touches the surface of a still pond, it creates ripples that extend far beyond the point of impact. In the same way, a small act of sincere appreciation can create an invisible wave of change that touches countless lives. This is the quiet yet profound power of living with a mindset rooted in appreciation. It starts internally, often unnoticed, but gradually influences emotions, behaviors, relationships, and entire communities. Gratitude does not operate in isolation. It multiplies, flows, and echoes far beyond the moment it is felt or expressed. When a person begins to genuinely recognize the good in their life, something subtle but significant shifts within them. The mind becomes less reactive, more present. The heart softens. There is less room for resentment and more space for compassion. This internal transformation may not be visible to others immediately, but it becomes evident in how someone carries themselves. In their patience, their words, their energy, others begin to feel that difference. People respond to the calm presence of someone who lives with awareness and appreciation. Even the smallest expressions can uplift a person's day. A thoughtful message, a smile, a sincere compliment. These gestures, often born from a grateful heart, can be the very thing someone needs to feel seen or valued. And once uplifted, that person is more likely to pass that energy forward. Kindness, after all, is contagious. When someone is on the receiving end of warmth and recognition, they are more inclined to extend it to someone else. In this way, one quiet act can ripple outward into a chain reaction of goodwill. Beyond personal interactions, gratitude also strengthens relationships. It becomes a foundation upon which trust and mutual respect are built. In families, acknowledging the efforts of loved ones creates a climate of support rather than criticism. In friendships, expressing appreciation deepens emotional bonds. In professional environments, recognizing the contributions of team members boosts morale and motivation. People naturally thrive in spaces where their efforts are seen and valued. And when people feel appreciated, they tend to give more, care more, and connect more deeply. Over time, this emotional currency builds something powerful, a culture of respect and cooperation. Whether in a home, a workplace, or a community, the atmosphere becomes more positive, inclusive, and resilient. Conflict doesn't vanish, but it is approached with more understanding and less defensiveness. Differences are navigated with more grace. People are more willing to listen, to forgive, and to work together because they see the human side of one another. Gratitude also plays a vital role in how communities function. In times of crisis or uncertainty, those who practice it often become anchors for others. Their steadiness offers a kind of leadership that doesn't demand authority. It inspires it. They model how to find hope when things feel hopeless, how to keep going when circumstances seem bleak. Others watch, learn, and follow that example. The quiet strength of one person can give courage to many. In addition to influencing others, gratitude also changes how challenges are perceived. When people approach setbacks with a mindset that seeks lessons rather than blame, they become more resourceful and less reactive. They recover faster, adapt quicker, and grow stronger. And as they share their growth, others are encouraged to reframe their own difficulties. Adversity becomes less isolating when someone can say, "I've been there, and I found something good even in that." This shared resilience becomes another ripple, an emotional bridge between people. Furthermore, this mindset extends to how we care for the world around us. Grateful people often feel a deeper connection to the planet and to future generations. They understand that what they appreciate, they also protect. Whether it's conserving nature, supporting others, or giving back to their communities, their actions are fueled by a sense of responsibility born from appreciation. They see life as a gift, and in return, they choose to give. This ripple effect also touches the inner world of children and young minds. When young people grow up in environments where gratitude is not just spoken but lived, they absorb those values effortlessly. They learn to look for what's right before pointing out what's wrong. They learn to be kind without being asked. They grow up knowing that strength lies not in how loudly they demand things, but in how gracefully they acknowledge what they have. These lessons shape future generations and, by extension, the future of the world. The most remarkable part of this entire process is its accessibility. No wealth, fame, or perfect life is needed to begin. Anyone in any situation can choose to practice appreciation. It might start with a single thought, like noticing the beauty of the sky or the kindness of a stranger. But with repetition and sincerity, it becomes a habit, then a mindset, and eventually a way of life. And through this way of living, a person not only transforms their own experience, but becomes a source of light for others. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a force. A quiet, persistent force that has the power to soften hardened hearts, to lift weary spirits, and to bridge divides. It does not need to shout to be heard. Its impact is often silent but undeniable, and once it begins, it does not end with the person who feels it. It continues, moves, and expands. Just like a ripple in a still pond, one moment of sincere appreciation has the potential to reach far beyond what the eye can see. It changes everything, beginning with one choice, one moment, one heart.